You're saying there's residues?
Exactly. Yeah, the residues.
It's another one to add to the list. Oh, man.
Okay. What your research covers is the fact that these antibiotics are going into the animals, and then we are eating those animals, so the antibiotics are going directly into us.
We were just like drinking the cocktail of antibiotics. Very interestingly, some organic product had a higher concentration than the conventional product.
As you've alluded to, there's a lot of corruption in the food industry as well. I'm not convinced that, there's a safe food completely out there. What are your thoughts?
To be honest, it is all contaminated.
You're really helping with this fear-mongering here by adding to the fact actually it's not just antibiotics, there's also heavy metals. Now that we've established that basically no food is safe.
That's not health advice. Everyone, where do we begin this one, man? Tea. This is going to be some good conversation.
You've been talking about this for so long.
I want to swear and jump and shout and scream because I'm so excited for this chat today. So we're doing something different. Instead of us reading the data or reading the research and interpreting it, we actually got the person who produced the physical research to come in, sit down, the expert, and discuss his paper. Today we're going to be covering antibiotics. Controversial. We should have a dum-dum-dum topic conversation, right?
Yeah,
we should
let's
be saying
go for it.
But we have Jegak Seo in our studio today, and this is the third time we tried to get this together. But first we're going to start with just saying thank you to you. Thank you for making the time out to come and see this, because we know you've had a lot on since your published paper, and you've actually taken the time out and carved it out to actually go through this piece of incredible, insightful research, I'd argue.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really good to, we'll definitely get into it and kind of break it down, but it's really lovely when the researchers themselves take the time to go and discuss this in kind of the public realm, because, one of the reasons we started the Cannabis Candid show is to really have conversations and break down research and kind of clinical suggestions and finding, because we find that there's often can be a lot of context missing sometimes when, people are going around saying this is this and this is that. So it's such an honor to have you here, and fun to be able to really pick your brain on everything going on. So should we start by maybe you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do and what brought you to doing this research on antibiotics?
Yeah.
So hello everyone. So I'm Jegak Seo and from South Korea. Now I've been living here for 10 years. So my research was about antibiotic resistance, especially looking at the gut microbiome, human gut. I've been studying at UCL for 5 years for my PhD, and then I did my undergrad and master's at University of York. So the journey begins from back in 10 years time. I was interested about environmental science, especially with aquatic culture. And then I, at the same time, also interested about how the pharmaceuticals can impact into animal body, their health. So very luckily, my supervisor, Alistair Boxall, he's really famous for the aquatic toxicology. So we planned on my research from the undergrad and the master's as well. So we looked at the antidepressants, how the trace level, a residues that flows into the fresh water in the UK, and how can be yeah, exactly. So actually the antidepressant is the second most used pharmaceutical in the UK. So
and there's residues in kind of our water and environment.
Sorry?
You're saying there's residues?
Exactly. Yeah, the residues.
It's another one to add to the list. Man.
Okay. Cool.
So what we found is if the trace level of antidepressants flows in, then a small tiny daphnids or a fish that can be consuming those trace level of pharmaceuticals, and they can have acute or chronic impact on their body. Such things like their mortality, like as an acute level, and reproductive as well. That can impact on the like a biodiversity as a like a whole ecosystem. And then I planned my research myself. It's like self-designed, self-funded. Well, at the beginning, I contacted like 30 or 50 like potential supervisor around the UK, and only one supervisor returned back that it is a brilliant idea. So that
why only one?
So yeah, that's a really good question. Like most of the like other like researchers think that the UK is managing the antibiotics really well. There should not be a residues in like outside of a daily life without taking the prescription. So anyway, I mean like there should be at the trace level, but like it's not in a like a warning level. Yeah.
That's an interesting point, actually, because definitely from like a general perspective, there does seem to be kind of some countries which kind of have this idea that like, oh, we're great, we're fine, we regulate everything, there's no issue with antibiotics, and other countries where people will call out and kind of say, oh, they have an issue, but not us. So it's interesting you bring up the UK specifically.
That's interesting that out of all the researchers you contacted, only one was like, oh yeah, this is an interesting piece of documented research. We should really cover this. Was it everyone else was just a bit scared of the results maybe?
I don't know, like to be honest, like maybe some people would like scared of it because that is directly related to like a public health, and then by the time it's close to the like the COVID, and then people were scary about like infectious disease, and then which was not actually related to the antibiotics though.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes, one win for antibiotics.
Yeah. So so the current supervisor, Lena Serik at UCL, we had a good chat, we had an interview, and I got passed on the interview. I started the PhD with her. By the time when I was about to start my PhD, COVID happened. So at the same time, I don't know, it might be because of the COVID, but there's one news that there is a scandal in one chicken farm in the UK that he brought up the illegal antibiotic from China to the UK, shit a lot of batons, and then the police found it, and then he was suspended on their business as well. So
when did that happen?
Actually that happened like in 2019, I guess, 2019 or 20, I guess. Yeah, there's still available on the online. Yeah, I can send you a link after this. Yeah,
I love to.
Black market.
Yeah, black market, exactly. Yeah,
I imagine that the timing was probably good for that person, because I'd say it got brushed over in the media with everything else going on at that time. Because I haven't heard that.
No.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll link that below.
Yeah. After that, so then I was the reason why I interested about antibiotic is like the trace level about antidepressant could impact to the animals as well as a human as well. And then so what about the other pharmaceutical like antibiotic, which is like could derive resistance, and that could that is like people really worrying about like a future pandemic, like a silent pandemic. So then where is the spot that we exposed to the antibiotic? We eat every day 3 times usually, and most of people, not everyone though, like eat meat, and then the meat is from the, like livestock, and then for the livestock they use a lot of amount of the antibiotic for the infectious disease, and growth promoter, I would say, but it has banned in the Europe from 2006, I guess, but still there's like a loophole. They use antibiotics, so that can just directly flow into our human body by just taking the the meat every day. Yeah, so then eventually our human gut is gonna be like the party place for the bacteria to be grow on, and then having their resistance level up, and then in a time later, like years and years and decades, the human is gonna be like a host itself that producing the superbacteria. So we are digging our graves ourselves, that which cannot be like defended with the current science level. Yeah.
Because I think in your research paper you said that we're projected to have like 10 million deaths per year. Is it 20 by 2030 or something like that?
Oh no, it's a 2050. So it's a well-known the Jim O'Neill's report. He predicted about like 10 millions of people would died or passed away by the antibiotic resistance crisis. So by the superbacteria. Yeah.
This is a real problem as well.
Exactly.
It is a real problem. My God.
And a real fear, I think, as well, because at least, there's a lot of attention on antibiotics over the last decade or so, I would say, in terms of an awareness that maybe we're using them too much. And I think often, at least the people I've spoken to, there's a feeling like, oh, we're just prescribing them too much to humans in terms of, we're giving them for everything without looking in. Whereas actually what your research is showing, and, other studies around it, is that it's not just the prescriptive method. It's, these are being used in animals and lots of different, even like skincare products. I know there's some prescription ones with antibiotics, and the real fear is that if we keep using these and becoming resistant to them, then eventually we're going to find ourselves in a place where, some bacteria will come along and we don't have any means of finding or of fighting that. So that's, that's scary.
I've got to ask, what made you want to research this? Because this isn't like a normal thing to like want to do. Like, what was your drive to actually look at this?
Yeah, antidepressant, and then just the trace level, and I was thinking about other pharmaceutical, and then the antibiotic that is giving the resistance. So that's why that is something can make something that develop into. So I was interested about antibiotic. So other pharmaceuticals could have a resistance by their mechanism themselves, but antibiotic is like biggest concern amongst with the pharmaceutical types.
Massively.
Yeah.
What made you decide? So looking at your research, I was really interested to see that you focused on animal products. So you kind of tested samples of different meats and dairy. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of how you went about that process, and if you looked at kind of different cooking methods? How did you control for those kind of different types of foods?
Yeah, so I started from choosing the different types of meats, like pork, beef, fish, chicken, and dairy product. And then we chosen the product that mostly like bought or consumed based on like the sold history that report from the like Tesco or other supermarket brand. And then we ranked them in an order, and then we bought from the supermarket directly, and then open up the package and we grind whole the product, and then we sampled out a certain amount that needs to be tested. And then we tried different like spots, like 5 different supermarkets in different places in London, and then 2 different time scale as well, one in the summer, one in the winter, to see whether it's going to be vary or not.
Do we know if there's a higher use of antibiotics in livestock depending on the type of year, or I guess maybe winter, thinking that there'd be more prone to infection?
Actually, there's, as far as I know, I think there's no research on like a amount of the antibiotic they use in the different seasons. But well, in my thesis it's not covered though. We expected to have some of antibiotic to be found because to prevent the infectious disease from the animals. And then we need to prioritize the antibiotics. So what antibiotics we're gonna look at? Yeah. So I chose 5 different classes. Within the classes, I have chosen 2 different antibiotics, so 10 in total. That was based on the most consumed antibiotics in a livestock farming, so in animal farming. Yeah.
That's quite concerning, because are there limits to what types and how many antibiotics? Because I guess in my mind I'd be thinking, okay, there must be like 5 antibiotics that are approved for livestock, but you're saying you sampled 10 alone, so there must be a ton.
So as far as I know, there's no rule for use of antibiotic, like as in like number of types.
Okay.
But there's a mostly used, like a famous one that what farmers favor to use antibiotics. Yeah, for example, like amoxicillin or ampicillin, which human also use a lot. Yeah.
Is it mycin and cyclins, different forms of antibiotics, aren't there?
Yeah.
And then I think in your research you kind of cover the fact that was it like 75% of antibiotics produced are for animals rather than humans.
Yeah. So antibiotic. Yeah. So back in the history, like although the antibiotic discovered to cure the army in the World War, by the penicillin, and then but like. As time goes on, the disease found in the animals, so people, develop the antibiotic for the animals as well. And then, the market is really huge in the animal market. So the pharmaceutical company developed the antibiotics for the animals. And nowadays, like a lot of the fat antibiotics, like more types of fat antibiotics than the human antibiotics. Yeah.
And then basically what your research covers is the fact that these antibiotics are going into the animals, and then we are eating those animals, so the antibiotics are going directly into us, which is just to pivot a little bit here. It's crazy that everyone pushes like this eat meat, meat's healthy, meat's the most healthiest thing in the world, and then we've got this like really real big push for meat, but we're not talking about the fact that yes, meat has its benefits, but you're also increasing the amount of antibiotics that are going into your system, which is just mental.
Exactly. Like we're just like drinking the cocktail of antibiotics like a while.
A cocktail of antibiotics.
Yeah. And one other thing that I concern is about like when I'm talking with like clinicians when I'm working in a lab. So they are aware, like they really know. Obviously, they are expert on like a human antibiotics, but they don't know about the vet antibiotics. So when the vet antibiotics can get into human body, they don't know like what is the impact, what is like a inhibitory level or such things, like what is the level that we need to maintain or something like that. So then they're gonna ask to the vet clinicians, and then the vet clinician doesn't know how that's gonna be working in a human gut. So there's kind of like a gap between
gap in knowledge and
oh shit! So you're saying that basically the research is done on the antibiotics in animals, but they've actually not done a crossover and seen what the impact of the antibiotic is in human trials. So they're just focusing on the animals. So that's clearly that's compartmentalization, isn't it? That's essentially they've compartmentalized the antibiotics for animals, but they're not even looking at the impact in humans.
Yeah, so
as in the impact of humans ingesting food with antibiotics.
Exactly.
Not
the antibiotics, right? Because it's talking about because what I'm saying is that the antibiotics, they're still in the system of the animal, aren't they? And so when they've not actually looked at the impact of that antibiotic, even in small amounts in a human's body, right?
Yeah.
So we don't actually really know if, say, we are consuming a food with antibiotics in it. Do we have any understanding as to, how much that's being ingested? Is it eliminated from the body? Is it interacting with our gut? Is it like how long? What's the half-life? Is it staying in our body? Do we have any indication of that?
Yeah, we do have a lot of information of like half-life. Yes.
Yeah.
Like what is the killing level? Like it's called a minimum inhibitory concentration of fat antibiotics and human antibiotics as well. And the thing is, like, we need to think on that. Even though that the vet antibiotics coming in through the human body, that we have a similar or the same microbe that animal has as well. So eventually, the antibiotic is gonna be exposed to the microbes mainly, not the like a human the health. Yeah. So the first contact would be the microbes. So since we share like a similar or the same microbes, so the impact is gonna be similar as well. So the afterwards of impact on the microbes, like a mechanism of like our ingestion, like or the absorption, it's gonna be different to the animal and the human, right? That's the difference. So we don't know about those mechanisms that further happen afterwards the impacted on the microbes. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. That's worrying, because that's compartmentalization of medications, where you're not actually looking at the longitudinal impact of that antibiotic on people. And that's a bit of a scary thought, because I've actually, when I read your paper, one of the things that you kind of went on to talk about was the residues from the animals and then passing feces and stool and it impacting the water and the irrigation going on into the crop fields and into the plants, if I'm right.
Yeah. So that's the main channel that the antibiotic residues or the antibiotic resistance genes that can flow into the environment,
so and then through the water system.
Exactly. There's one thing also I want to add on is like the combination effect, combination effect. Like we know that we have studied a lot about like 2 or 3 antibiotics combined that can have a synergistic or additive or antagonistic impact when they work together.
Yeah.
But we don't know like when they're combined with the vet antibiotic and human antibiotic. So we never given to human that, we don't need the vet antibiotics, or either like an animal doesn't need the human antibiotic.
We don't really know what's happening.
Exactly.
Because when you said that, the first thing that popped into my head is that, if you're going to your doctor to be prescribed antibiotics for something, like they're not asking you about your diet, kind of what quantity of, meats or vegetables or whatever might be contaminated. There's no like pre-test to see if there's antibiotics in your system. And if I might be wrong in this, but I believe that kind of it's generally dose according to weight is generally how it goes in terms of dosing antibiotics, or maybe that's just livestock. So you don't actually know if you're prescribing antibiotics, there could already be different strains of antibiotics in the body already. So it's that combination effect that you've no idea what's happening.
Exactly.
But equally, we're probably not super surprised that everyone has gut and immune issues.
That's just, it's bonkers, man. It is actually bonkers. Like that is just, that clear divide that's kind of going on from there is very, very, very disturbing. You kind of, when I was reading your paper and reading through it, what kind of like, trying to get my words out here, because I feel like I need to like I don't know, with this podcast I feel like I have to be very careful in what I say and how I say things. You covered the different animals. Is there a particular livestock that you found had more than others?
So I need to look at my thesis. So very interestingly, like beef and chicken had a most various of types of antibiotics, and throughout the whole different animals, the antibiotic called the trimethoprim that has been found almost every product. We found every product that has a trimethoprim.
Okay.
And then though it's good news is that they are not in a risky level though, but still we found a lot of definitely we detected the antibiotics. Very interestingly, some organic product had a higher concentration than the conventional product, and ultra processed meats ham or spam, those like that, they had a salami, yeah, they had a like huge a lot of like concentration compared to the others. Yeah.
Because
Do you have
that's
any
just crap meat, isn't it? Sorry.
Well, yeah. Do you have any theories as to why that might be? Like why some forms of meat might have a higher concentration than others?
So
If you can call spam a form of meat. Kind of question.
So I can't really
We
it is
won't hold you to
100%
this.
sure. I mean,
just if you have any theories, we won't hold you to it.
I mean, like just theoretically, what could be happening is like when we ultra process the meat, like you know, like a offset meat or like you know leftover meat or like a low quality of the meat, just to grind it and combine together to make a ham, right?
So
And then,
meat.
yeah,
Meat constitutes.
so that could lead to like an increase of antibiotic concentration at the end. And like organic product, I'm really also like dubious about like a suppliers in the daft about like the suppliers in the UK that I can track back like where the suppliers and what they do and then what products they supply to the which brand. So when I found like one supplier in England, although they stated that they are only supplying the halal food, like halal meat, but they are providing other products as well, and they have a history of suspending their business for like 2 years. They restarted again, and then they're producing like other products as well. And then in the past, I saw a document that like when they are processing their meat, like after like slaughtering or before the packaging, they sprays out like antibiotic, diluted antibiotic onto the like meat to prevent the like a disease that spread. Yeah.
I've heard of that. I think that's
Prophylactic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and I think that's really interesting because there's even, there's a lot of question marks around using antibiotics in that way in humans, but to know that they're using it in our food supply as well, because I think there's a belief amongst a lot of consumers that, okay, yes, medications are used for our food, but only in the case where they're very necessary. But realistically, in most situations now, the kind of manufacturing of our food is such a massive process that, you just don't have the capacity to standardize in the way we probably should. So there's all of these kind of preventative measures of antibiotics, which obviously at the end of the line isn't helping anyone. So that's quite scary.
Well, look at like the UK legislation on declaring how much antibiotics in meat. The way that they actually do it is they don't say this cow had this much antibiotics or this chicken has antibiotics. They do it via herd ratio. So they get a herd, and it could be 50 cows, for example. And let's say cow 1 had hardly any antibiotics, but cow 15 had shit tons of antibiotics. You would then go, well, it doesn't matter because we will put them all together and we'll create a median, and then that's what's logged into the system. There's actually that's not me just being like talking shit. That's actually
We'll link it below.
We'll link it below. That's UK law on how we look at it. So you could have a herd of cows. 5 could be completely healthy, or 15 could be completely healthy, and a load of them could be completely sick. But because of that, there's that healthy balance. They can median the entire result. So you're not being told. Well, as a consumer of meat, we're not being told the full truth of what's actually in our food.
Yeah.
Which is disturbing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and you raised a really interesting point as well, in the sense of, I think there's this idea that if I buy organic or I buy like a certain brand, that means I'm protected against this. But as you've alluded to, there's a lot of corruption in the food industry as well. I'm sure there's good, aspects and manufacturing, but there's also a lot of corruption where, there's meat or any other sort of product being sourced or labeled as something that it isn't, showing you the full truth. Or, I'd be interested to know if you think with organic food, because I know with organic vegetables there's this challenge where it's less so seems to be that unorganic food is being labeled as organic, but rather that organic, because the antibiotics and things are coming through the water system, that even organic produce is being exposed to that. I don't know if you kind of experienced something in your studies, whether it was a mislabeling situation, maybe it was contamination, but I think we're not often getting what we believe we are based on the label.
Well, I don't know if it is a mislabeled or not, but I just bought the organic or not like conventional product, and then I got the result on like a concentration of antibiotics. Perhaps they mislabeled. That means that perhaps mislabeled, or like missupplied from the supplier. Maybe the supermarket doesn't know about that as well, because some suppliers usually doesn't report on that as well.
Yeah.
And then like 2 years ago or 1 year ago, I can't really remember well, but in Birmingham there was 2 days of a like symposium between the farmers and the company who like manufacturers, and then the scientist on antibiotic resistance, and then we had a chat about like what is the really happening like in a circulation of antibiotics in our environment. And I had quite a few farmers who runs an organic farm, and also who they supply to the manufacturer. And then actually like some organic like farmers also use the antibiotics. The reason why is like there's no certain rule that they must not be used antibiotics. So I mean, if the animal is ill, like they can use antibiotics. Yeah. And then there's no rule about like how much or how often. So organic, I don't know like what is the exact meaning of organic now. So
I think it's more so to do with the pesticides,
Exactly.
but I think people have a false perception that it's just better on every front. We like to convince
Do you know
ourselves.
how disturbing this conversation? Like, oh my god! Like, you know, we made a joking video. We did a react video to an American woman talking about like how Americans consume so much sweets and meat products that when they die, when they burn the bodies, it smells like someone's barbecuing meat, right? And we laughed about it. And I said to T, how can someone eat meat after kind of smelling that? And the thing is, literally, it's scary because we don't want to fearmonger anyone, because we're in a kind of industrialization world where populations masses are growing, we're growing quickly, we're growing globally, globalization's happening, people are being told, you know, eat more meat, eat more vegetables, have this product, and so it's no one's fault. It's because industrialization and like money side is coming into it, but it's scary.
yeah.
And we're not trying to, like, by the way, to anyone listening to this, we're not trying to fearmonger you. We're just trying to give you the facts so you can make a much more stronger decision about how you want to live your lifestyle and live your health, right?
Or not scare you more than we've already scared ourselves.
Let's just say that's made me feel much better about being vegetarian. But I have a feeling you're going to tell me different because you talked about the residues, didn't you?
No, because this is the point that I wanted to bring up, because I know your research focused on meat, and you immediately looked at that being like, oh, phew, it's only
Then I
meat.
saw the butter and milk.
Yeah. but also from what I understand is that, you know, vegetables aren't immune from having antibiotic residues either. I don't know if you can elaborate any more on that in terms of if there's a difference in terms of how many antibiotics residues there might be depending on the type of food or anything like that. But I'm not to scare the vegetarians out there, but I'm not convinced that, you know, there's a safe food completely out there. What are your thoughts?
To be honest, like, it is all contaminated. Just
eat what you want.
Fuck it, we're gonna die anyway. You must just enjoy yourself.
just enjoy your life.
Unless it's spam.
Let's
That's
just
not
spam.
good for
Let's just spam.
anyone.
Let's just stay away from that brand.
Anyway, so, you know, like as we discussed earlier, like the antibiotics is gonna be flow down to like other environment anyway, soil, water, and other animals or other vegetables or other products like honey that could also exposed. Actually, I participated one project that we're looking at the residues in honey, in a Manuka honey and like other types in New Zealand, from New Zealand or the European.
Don't do it, Jegak. Don't ruin honey for us. Don't ruin honey for us.
There is antibiotics because
we get raw honey as well, so that might even be worse.
Yeah, because we thought about what is the source of antibiotics, that the bee gets the pollen from the plant. Then the plant should have contaminated from the antibiotics. Then might be the source of antibiotics. And also, there's a lot of a study that the plant also exposed with the antibiotics, but more with the antivirals. Antivirals.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I think with plants the main focus has always been glyphosates and adding the pesticides onto them, herbicides, but no one's addressing the water that's going into it. I'll link a study in this conversation on heavy metals, because in 2017 the Food Standards Authority published a report on the heavy metal toxicity found in plants, and people are like, oh, it doesn't matter because if it's organic it's going to be healthy for you. And I was like, hold the door a second, because the problem is what we're not focusing on, even when you're growing in those soils, because we've industrialized and there's more cars on the road, there's more pollution on the road, that goes into the atmosphere, it then rains, which then goes into the soil, and then the plants eat it up. And so even that has played a role in it, but that's been hidden. That's not a conversation that people are having. And I know you covered antibiotics, but it's just as much as a bigger fear as antibiotics are, because everything like that impacts the microbiome, and the human microbiome has become, look at the term IBS. It's now become it's a normal word. Literally, people are told, "Oh, you've got IBS," and that's it. And
well, you're asked now on if you're applying for health insurance about IBS, which is mad.
Yeah, we got our health insurance done for ourselves, our life insurance,
right.
and they asked us. They goes, "Have you been diagnosed with IBS or IBS-like symptoms?" I was in shock.
I didn't know that. Oh, right.
I was in shock.
I see.
I always thought it was things like a history of cancer or certain degenerative diseases and stuff. But you're really helping with this fear mongering here by adding to the fact it's actually it's not just antibiotics. There's also heavy metals. But before we move on, a point that I was curious about was, often when you speak to the regulatory bodies and you ask them about antibiotics in meat or livestock in particular, there doesn't seem to be, at least from what I can find, as many standards in the antibiotics in vegetables. But they often talk about the fact that there's no antibiotics in the meat because any animal that's treated with antibiotics will have I don't know what they call it, a clearing period before slaughter. I don't know what that clearing period is, but I'm guessing that if you were testing, dead meat, is that a bad thing to say? And you were seeing these residues, that clearly there's a breakdown in the system. Could you elaborate any more of that, or is that something you're familiar with?
So that's a question that I got from my Viva as well. So to be honest, I can't give a clear answer for that, because I didn't look at what they're doing, visiting the company or the manufacturing place.
I don't think you're allowed to, mate.
No.
I think you'll be shot on sight at this rate.
Excuse me. So, I don't know. Just it is what it is. Just I found the dose concentration from the dead meat, and then let's say if they are doing a clearing period, a withdrawal period for reducing the antibiotic or other pharmaceuticals. But why we still see the concentration? Because at the first time when I found with the first trial with the testing the product, I was really shocked. Did I make a mistake, or am I the right person to do the PhD? Or am I designed my study like very foolish way, like that has no possibility that could happen. So I tested again and again and again and again. Because I did 5 times of a replication with the same product, and I had really similar level of antibiotics. So which means this is the correct result, probably. Yeah, and then that's like a secret scene behind that we never know, like what's gonna happen, like in a withdrawal period. Yeah.
I think that really highlights, first of all, the requirement for end stage testing on our food products. Because I think, as far as I'm aware, a lot of the regulatory testing, it's done either hypothetically or at very kind of early stages and random kind of batches. But also, I mean, potentially, again, I don't know, but potentially it could be that the clearing period does work, but because of contact with a contaminated water supply, or as you say, kind of preventative spraying of antibiotics at kind of a later stage that we know isn't going to be tested so we can get away with it, that our food is still, you know, testing for antibiotics. So, you know, irregardless of how it's happening, it clearly is happening. And it'd be great to see more research going in along the full timeline of food production to see what's actually going on.
So what I want to add on is yes, they do test with the final product, but like so the one that I presented, I mean attended to the symposium in Birmingham, the one manufacturer and the farmer is saying that there's a kind of a, like a monopoly system in the chicken industry. So there's 4 biggest the chicken manufacturers, and they getting a regulatory test like in a monthly basis or like a yearly basis. Before they coming, they arrange everything, like it's like all staged. Yeah. So you know,
I've heard this.
And also,
oh god,
one more thing, that when I went to the conference in the biggest micro conference in the US, ASM, there's a session with the antibiotic use in the livestock. They were also interested about my presentation, but the researchers in the US think that they are really doing well. There's not gonna be happen that they don't have any residues in their food. There's no possibility on that. But thing is, like in the other session, like other US researcher saying that they found the antibiotic in their like a deer meat as well, which they test a wild deer and then the farmed deer as well, and they compare the concentration, and they were really similar. And in my research, there is a wild fish, like a mackerel or other, haddock or something, and there's a farmed fish as well, like salmon. Like they both had antibiotics as well. So which means that antibiotic can the prescription of antibiotic, like a high dosage, that can just flow down into the environment, and then the wild animal also can be impacted on that, with that.
That's incredibly concerning, because again, I think there's a belief that if you buy wild, or I know regenerative farming is a big thing in the US, at least at the moment, with this idea that less antibiotics because there's more room to roam, and basically the theory being that the more the less space animals have, that the more likely they are to get sick and need antibiotics. So you kind of feel like, oh, I'm not getting battery chickens, or I'm getting local, so it must be fine. But your findings kind of say something else, and particularly it keeps popping up, this idea of the water supply really keeps
but you know what, T, right? One of the things that they're not showing is that this term wild caught, like wild caught salmon or wild caught cod or whatever it is.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
What they're saying is that they're saying it's wild caught, right? Fine. Okay, you caught it from the sea. The sea's got crap in it. We know that, we've dumped in there, right? But what they're not telling you is it may be wild caught, but when they're putting it into the boat and they're freezing it, there could be a process of adding antibiotics into that to stop bacteria spread.
That could happen.
And that could happen. They're not telling you that.
Yeah.
And then when it's moving from the boat into the places of manufacturing, there's processes added into this.
Exactly.
Because we've got this like really high standard where we need to have like bacteria and microbes already down. In some ways, we're like, I think a colleague of mine actually said it, goes, we're over anti-backing things. We're over trying to clean things because we think if we clean everything, that will be the solution to the problem. But the problem, that's not a solution, because what we're doing is we're isolating it. We're saying, well, it's okay because all I eat is this organic cow or something, but then the vegetables could have it. Then this, something, the ground that ground that you're touching could have it. And we're not talking about that cumulative effect from it. I got to say, and this is for Tracy, because you talked about the washout period. And Jegak, this is for you as well. Could you as a human being, if we fasted more and gave our own bodies a washout period, could that support with reducing the antibiotics we're consuming and the resistance to it in any way? Or am I just picking here?
But I don't know, do we, and this is for you, do we know how exactly to eradicate our body of antibiotics? Because I'm not familiar with kind of, decent clinical research that shows if you want to get rid of antibiotics in the system, this is what you do. I know there was some suggestion around kind of hydration and water, but as far as I'm aware, we're not exactly testing humans for antibiotics. And other than, I guess, obviously there's like probiotics that you're often advised to help maintain the integrity of your bacteria while on a course of antibiotics. But do we know that actually washes antibiotics out of the system, or it just protects some of the more harmful effects? I don't know. Do you have any answers for this? I certainly don't. Just questions.
So I can't really give the clinical advice. But what I just thinking is like, if the focus is washing out the antibiotic from our body, we just don't need to eat the antibiotic. Like any source of antibiotic should not be entered to our body. Yeah. So
for how long of a period? Do we have any idea? So like how many days, months? Different
antibiotic has a different withdrawal process, or different days of like excretion rate, or things like that. So like, for example, some antibiotic has a very short like half-life, or like very high excretion rate, and that is really easy that the human can just export from our body. But like there is a way that we can reduce that when we eat the food, or like not in a prescription, maybe that's gonna reduce the effect anyway. So we can just drink a lot water, the clean water, then it will dilute the concentration, and then it will increase the absorption level as well, and then that will help to like clean out from our lanol. Then it will just excrete it, I guess. But I think just fasting our gut is not really a good idea. Our microbes need the nutrition as well. They need to be healthy. And then it might be the next question in the later, but the population diversity of microbes in our gut, that is really important. That is really related to all the human disease. So maintain the healthy gut microbiome and try not to get exposed with the antibiotics. But though, like when you're taking the antibiotic from the hospital, you need to finish the period. Like if the doctor asks you to take the 7 days, then you must finish until the 7 days, even though like you feel alright. Because otherwise, really, really tiny amount of the the microbiomes who has a resistance, they will grow up and they will pass the information to the antimicrobes, and they will start to evolve the stronger microbes. So we need to eradicate like completely the microbes. with the antibiotics. Yeah.
So if you are going to take them, go all the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't do it half-hearted.
That's crazy, man.
On the eradication piece, so in terms of obviously just trying to reduce your exposure, staying hydrated, which we love anyway, but in terms of if you're, now that we've established that basically no food is safe, fish included, is there any kind of cooking or preparation method that could maybe reduce the quantity of antibiotics? I mean, in my head, I always think of cooking. I stand my ground on eating well-cooked vegetables. I am not a salad girl for that reason. But I don't know if there's how effective cooking is, if there's an established temperature. Are all antibiotics, temperature, heat sensitive? I know there's a few that I think might be heat resistant. Is there, what can we do to try and prepare the food in the best way?
Yeah, I just popped in my head that when I buying the product from the Tesco, and I was a poor PhD student. Yes, I have a free food. Test some of it, and then I will eat those meat. But anyway, so that I wanted to test like a different cooking method, and then effect of what temperature that can reduce down or increase the concentration of antibiotics level in a food. But in a pH level for my pH thesis, that could not be done.
Yeah,
but
others,
other studies have conducted those studies as well. So if we want to completely get away from the antibiotic in the food, we need to fry or boil the meat for over 100 minutes over 100 degrees Celsius, and that's not a normal way to cook, right?
So back to traditional methods,
exactly.
Basically all of our ancestors who used to have stews and soups boiling over hours.
So 100 minutes needs to be cooked for, or does it mean 100 minutes? So
we can only eat your mom's food from now on because she's the only person in our vicinity that does those long cooking processes.
Hold on. Let me just go back to this. So you're saying 100 minutes of boiling or frying, right?
Yeah.
So to the questions that will come off this, if you boil cooked meat for that long, you're going to remove all it will impact the integrity of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients in the food in some way, because they would be cooked out, right? If I'm wrong, right?
So negatively and positively, because some nutrients will die, basically, like vitamin C, for example, super sensitive to light, heat, everything like that. But actually some nutrients will be released, and particularly if you consume the liquid in, your boiling liquid, hence why it would be nicer to have stews and soups rather than just boiling and throwing away the water. Actually, you can release some of the nutrients, so it just kind of depends.
100 minutes tea.
Yeah.
100 minutes.
Yeah.
100 minutes tea. All right, the 100 minutes of cooking.
Listen, that is what all of our ancestors used to do.
All right.
This is the problem with convenience.
All I'm saying is, let's say shout out to our raw, our blue steak. Is it the blue steak?
Zone.
Where people have the steak where it's really, really under, and when it's not.
Oh, sorry.
I was thinking about the people that have
the steaks that are still mooing.
Yeah, the steaks that are mooing.
Yeah.
So basically, those people that are having the steaks that are barely cooked, literally seared one side, they're probably getting the highest concentrations of antibiotics. And it's okay though, because if you do that and you eat that steak in front of the people think you're incredible and you're an absolute machine because you're eating raw steaks. But
you could save some money, and next time you have a bacterial infection,
have a steak. Have a steak.
We're not recommending that. We're not recommending that.
That's not health advice. That's not health advice.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, because it's funny, because obviously when heat is an aspect that can break down the antibiotics, it's it makes me smile, because I think no wonder people are so confused about diet and what to eat that's healthy, because in fact, in the case of reducing antibiotics, you're actually looking at maybe in some cases more processed foods, like, you know, canned foods, I think, in some cases other than spam, you know, because of that high heat might have lower antibiotics, but then also lower nutrient levels, and
or
so
in
it becomes
Jegak's
quite
case, higher antibiotics.
higher antibiotic levels for certain things. Yeah,
That is scary.
Yeah.
In
And
some
then
ways.
100 minutes of cooking means the 100 minutes of energy bill as well. So yeah.
I don't know what to say to you on that. That is when you were doing like looking at the cooking methods, right? Is if you were like, because I'm guessing you're not vegetarian.
No.
Okay, is there something you would look for when you're shopping, when you're buying your meat?
Well,
Even though you're a poor PhD student.
so I personally I gave up. And then I just more into.
that's very fair. I think
That's-
I think a lot of us are there. Yeah.
I just more interested about looking at the label. Oh, did I test this one, or is it this one that I tested before? So I know at least something, and then what's in there, and then I would try to avoid it, not having them frequently, something like that. Yeah.
But the thing is, what do you know? Say you decide, you listen to this podcast and you decide, you know what, I'm going to reduce my meat intake because I want to reduce antibiotic exposure. But if you're reducing your meat intake, what are you going to eat? More vegetables, which also look like they have antibiotics? Or do you kind of get to a place where you mentioned where it's kind of, for most people, unless you decide to live off the grid or something, we probably will have a certain level of these exposures. So we do need to look at our diet, and maybe, if we're eating like absolute crap tons of meat or certain types of vegetables and other things, then maybe we need to be careful. Or, you know, but also maybe we need to be looking at the context. So you discussed supporting our gut integrity so that it's less vulnerable to these antibiotics. So looking at eating fermented foods and, you know, other lifestyle factors like high quality filtered water and things like that. Maybe we need to be looking at how to protect ourselves as opposed to getting het up and like, oh my God, I ate a steak sandwich and now I'm going to die.
Yeah, but you know what?
It's hard, you know?
But do you know what's annoying me a little bit here, right? It's like, you know, like when a couple of people talk about like probiotics, for example, and they say, oh, they are transient through the gut. So when you have them, they don't do anything. They're not, you have to get these certain probiotics which stay in queue in the gut, right? It kind of makes that narrative a bit bullshit now, because it makes me feel like, no matter what, we should be taking some sort of like probiotic or gut support if our gut is ready for it, shall we say. But there's now more of a case for why we need good gut bacteria support whilst taking these foods. And I think that's the one thing I will say, and I know T's probably in the same wavelength here, and probably you're the same as well, Jegak, is what we're saying. We're not anti-meat or going against it. We're just saying you need to limit your consumption or when you're consuming it, and trying to making sure you're buying you can't even say high quality meat, can you? You can't even use because based on Jegak's research, we can't even argue for high quality meat.
I'm also thinking we're not anti-meat, but we may be anti-salad. Just saying.
Anti-salad.
Based on what I've been reading, I will be cooking my vegetables. Thank you very much.
All right, cool.
Particularly iceberg, but that's more a taste thing.
So Jegak, you did. Are you allowed to tell us about the supermarkets, and when you did this testing, if there was a particular supermarket, or are you not allowed to?
So I randomly choose the supermarket. So, but I did not aim to target one specific supermarket, but I started from the Tesco, and I tested with the Sainsbury and Waitrose as well.
Please tell me Sainsbury's is the worst. This is his favorite.
But the thing is, they share the same supplier, so there's no worse than the best.
Yeah.
So just the packaging is different. Yes, the name itself is, the brand is different. What they contain is the same. So it doesn't matter with the, the like a brand name or like the quality or something, because since they are supplied by the same supplier. Yeah. And then I want to say that with intervening our diet habit. So obviously, although I gave up with like choosing food from the supermarket, but I always think about then what is the solution? What needs to be changed? So what I'm thinking is like, it's not about like changing our diet habit. We need to eat healthy. We should eat like what we want. We should not be worried about our food, what we buy from the supermarket. The supermarket or the supply, they need to be changed. So like if we start to thinking about like what's inside or the what should have, like how it needs to be cooked, that's just our life is going complicated and complicated again. Like this is not our fault, right? So then where is the problem? The suppliers and the manufacturer, they need to be changed so that we don't need to worry about it. So why there's no reason again why we need to having another worry like apart from our daily life about building or council tax or other things. Yeah.
It needs to be the regulation.
Exactly.
Really,
strong regulation, more transparency, and education, really. Personally, like it's more like a philosophical discussion. All the study, all the majors is one directed to the education, I guess. I believe. So all science, all mathematics, or like economics or business, all good. Their studies are really brilliant. However, like if they want to change the world based on what they found, the public, the people around us need to accept it and then understand it. And then, so what I mean is like, especially with my research, they should know about what is happening, and they should not worry about like what we need to do. No, what they need to do is like they aware, they make a spread on their news, and then make the suppliers or the manufacturer to stop use of misuse or overuse of antibiotics. Yeah, that's the key thing that need to be happen. Otherwise, it will just keep happening. Yeah,
it needs to be measured. That's what it is. It needs to be measured on like an animal-based level, because we can't use this
food-based level.
Yeah,
not animals. It's everything.
Food-based level. Because realistically, what they're doing is the way to hide it is using that, like, oh, there's 50 cows and only 10 are given antibiotics, but you're playing Russian roulette with which one you're given, because you may be given one time the one with less and then the other one with more, and that's the problem. And if we're not being able to measure it, if we're able to say this animal had this many antibiotics, you would then go, well, actually, I don't want that animal. I want the one that's had less in it, and that could actually, in some ways, clean up the industry that little bit more. But then, like you're saying, it's suppliers as well, because it might not even be the farmers. It might even be the farmers, maybe the manufacturers that they're supplying.
It probably isn't the farmers. Like, Jegak, I think you brought up a really good point, and it's something that I think about all the time with my increasing frustration with our access to healthy food, because I come from a clinical nutrition background, and the question that you always get is, what's the healthiest diet? But most people are thinking, is it calorie restricted? Is it high protein? Is it this? Whereas realistically, like, the healthiest diet is the cleanest, and I don't mean that in the trendy like clean eating way. I mean it more in like, really, if you have access to the high quality food, less contaminated food, you're more likely, ahead of the game in terms of health. It's less about, whether you're eating dairy or carbs or not. It's more about, you know, access to high quality food. And I think you're right. It's very frustrating that I feel like we push the onus onto the individual, but that's not fair. But the only way to fight against that is actually to enlighten and share the education, because most people aren't aware of this. So if you're not aware of the issue, then how are you going to push your government to put better regulation and boundaries and testing in? It's not going to happen without us pushing them, because it's all about cost at the end of the day. So sharing this kind of research and saying, hey, did you hear about this? I didn't know about it. Let's go like tell our friends and let's kind of demand better quality food and better regulation. It's the only way to change.
So I see this, the what happening now in this antibiotic usage in food. It's like the 10 or 15 years back in the time that when I come to the UK, it's like back in the time, climate change was just there was people who were talking about the climate change, but people were not really care about. They know what is the answer, but like didn't act. They aware, but didn't act it like at all, and it's still happening. Yeah. And then I remember that 9 years ago, the UK introduced the fee on the plastic bag in supermarkets, right? People reacted like, oh my God, we are even paying the plastic bag. But now it is norm, right?
Yeah.
It's obvious because we need to protect the environment. But thing is, we had crossed over that threshold that we can save the earth. Like most of the scientists saying that. And I agree with that as well. So what I mean is like antibiotic resistance, we in a like late stage of an early phase. We can act something now. Otherwise, it's gonna be too late again. Always like we don't act like soon possible. I know there's like 8 billion of people in the planet. It is difficult to make everyone move together. But this time, this is really serious that some reports saying that in 2050, because of the superbacteria, a third of the population will be wiped out. Yeah, and there is no cure for it. Yeah, so we need to like have a proper education, proper awareness, so that we can maintain any life that we want to have, like in a daily life. Yeah.
You know because kind of. Do you know the reason why I found your study, Jegak? I was doing work on H. pylori, the stomach gut bacteria. And H. pylori's I've done a lot of, I've spent a lot of time reading into it and understanding it a bit more. And what I found was quite worrying was the fact that you have triple therapy, and that's used as first line therapy for most people if they have symptoms of H. pylori. And as I was reading it, what they were finding was that they're now publishing that instead of the first line therapy, they go to quadruple therapy, which is normally second line therapy. And they were finding that most like doctors were now bypassing first line therapy and going directly to second line therapy because there was more chances of getting rid of the H. pylori and getting rid of the symptoms than there was with first line therapy. And the problem was, what they were saying was that because they meant to do an interview with you and say, have you had this antibiotic for? Here's your public record. Okay, we can check through it. You've had this mycin. We know you've had this, so we're going to add bismuth into this. It's going to do this for you. So, but what they're doing is, because they're so busy, they're sometimes struggling in some way. So they're just going for the next option to try and destroy it. But what the World Health Organization started saying was that we're now reaching the point where even H. pylori is like number 20 on the top, number 18 or something on the top 20 bacteria that are at risk for human health. And if you look at those bacteria, they're related in things like sepsis, which people now going to hospital and they're like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. There's nothing we can actually physically do for you, and we don't know what's going on. And that's really worrying. And I think a lot of people, because they're hidden from it and they're not actually in that pot of feeling that problem, they don't understand the impact it has on your body and how you feel. And I don't know, I don't think I've mentioned, like, I was actually taken to hospital in 2021 for what they thought was Legionnaire's disease, which is like because they thought I'd had some sort of contaminated water or something, bacteria. And I remember being on 3 different types of antibiotics because the doc was like, "We don't know what's wrong with you. We've tested the bacteria and we can't work out what bacteria is in your system." And I remember at the time I didn't think nothing of it, but as I've become more and more educated on it, now I'm looking at it and I'm like, shit, I could have died then. Like and they did say, like, yeah, you could have died, and I was like, crap, I got very, very, very lucky. So I just look at that now and I'm thinking, until you're physically in it or you've got a loved one going through it, I don't think we're ever going to understand the impact. And you're right in what you've said there, that we're at that cusp where we can do something about it. But if we don't start now, then where does it end? With third of the population wiped out, and we're just sat there going, shit, we could have done something.
Make for a good movie.
Climate Change, the movie. Was this like Al Gore version part 2 or something?
Oh god.
Or AI can do something.
Yeah.
That's okay. As long as you can download your pictures onto an AI, we can then live vicariously through an AI person while we stay trapped in like a thing. What's that joke? Is it where they like say that people stop eating and all they do is consume supplements to stay living?
Yeah. And the AI can take over because they'll be resistant to bacteria.
Who knows? Like they can make a new drug development by the AI. Yeah,
exactly.
That
Yeah,
could happen.
If you're listening to us, AI, as we know you are, have a think about that. I feel like we're coming to a natural conclusion on the podcast, but I just had 2 other questions that I wanted to run by you and just get your thoughts. Do you want to go first, or?
I need to remember the word that I'm looking for because it's about a new form of technique. But I'll let you go, Karen.
Will I go?
Yeah,
Okay.
Karen.
So just 2 other things I was thinking of. We mentioned kind of cooking techniques to help reduce the antibiotic load. Is there any information around the effect of fermentation on antibiotics? Not that I'm aware of, but it could be interesting.
Fermentation. That's a really good question. So I tested cheese and yogurt. Okay. So thankfully, I did not find any antibiotic in there.
Cheese? Yeah. That's your favorite thing.
So I think because fermentation needs to be happened by the microbes, right?
Yeah.
So they need to keep alive. So I think they didn't use the antibiotic or try to avoid any antibiotic sources, I guess.
But even I'm thinking, say you're making sauerkraut or kimchi and you have cabbage that has antibiotic residues, by putting it through that fermentation process, would it kill the...
I don't know, to be honest. I would love to test on the kimchi.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, but who knows, they would get more stronger with the antibiotics.
Oh,
but yeah,
super antibiotics.
That'd be really interesting research if you test it with the ferment processed food. Yeah. See
if any of your peers might be interested in doing that, because I'm very interested in reading it. And then the other thing was, we mentioned the water supply as potentially being quite a strong source of all of these antibiotics that we're finding in the food system. And it brought me back to we're quite aware of the fact that hormone levels in the water supply is affecting human health, particularly a strong association between the consumption of the contraceptive pill and then that kind of going out through the urine into the water supply and then affecting humans and animals and things. Are you aware of if there could be a similar pathway happening for antibiotics? So if we're being prescribed antibiotics for different illnesses and things, could that be passing out through our urine into the water supply and potentially kind of compounding the effects we're seeing, or I don't know? Yeah,
so human excretes the antibiotics, and there's a form of unchanged form or activated form of antibiotic flows down into the environment, and then that is directly exposed to the tiny animals or the insects, and they were affected. also like we're not only excreting those pharmaceuticals, we also urinate and feces, like poo. Yeah, in there is microbes as well, human microbes flows down in. Those microbes pass their information to the environmental bacteria, and within the bacteria they will interconnect each other and giving their information, sharing the ideas, and then how to become stronger. And the environment itself, they will produce another superbacteria which was sourced from the human poo. So it keeps cycling, and it's like a kind of a like vicious cycle. But I don't know where to stop.
No,
please keep going.
That's the answer I didn't want, but I kind of expected.
And then I want to add one more thing here. We are really in our daily life, we are most of people focused on the adult human body, right? But like, think about pregnant or kids. Pregnant will eat the same food we eat, and then kids will have a small portion, but they have the same concentration though. Then exactly. Their like impact's gonna be much higher than what we get.
Particularly in the first 12 months, where your immune system isn't fully developed and you have increased permeability of the gut.
You know, I didn't bring this up on purpose. I was, because we have a young child. We have a young child. So, and when I was doing the Q&A and going through the questions, I was like, do we go into kids? Like, how much can we go into?
Don't worry, I already know it.
And it was because I think it's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, and the impact that antibiotics have on young children, especially when their guts, as you would say, T, is still seeding.
Like within those first, I mean, I'm sure any time, but particularly within those first 12 months, we see that there can be such an impact. And also we know that, the idea of the type of birth and the, the kind of bacterial diversity of the woman, of the skin, of the partner's skin, depending on all the kind of contact that newborn's getting. Have you come across anything this is me just curious, I haven't actually read it, but in terms of breastfeeding and breast milk, so the woman being exposed to antibiotics and that going in through the breast milk?
So not specifically antibiotics, but while I was having an internship at Seoul National University during the undergrad, in the lab they did the plastic residues or like other chemicals related to the plastics or the hormones. When they are pregnant, they use a plastic material, even with like this coffee, like this is coated with the plastic, right? And
this is horrendous, by the way, and we know it's horrendous. We're drinking out of it anyway.
And it is when they are like poured with the hot water, the hormones will release, and then that will just comes into the body. And so in the conclusion, like the breast milk, there is a concentration of those plastics or other chemicals as well. And when the fetus get exposed with that, so they studied it on the cohort study with the pregnant. So they follow up every week after giving the birth with the kids as well. And then they tested it out like people who use the plastic, like, things, and then non-plastic, like a wood. And they had like different stages of a development on their like disease as well. Like I don't know what it's called, but a kid obesity. Like young people, there's more easily found with who used in the plastic, those like that. And
because your fat is storing the toxins.
I believe the antibiotic would happen the same, I guess.
Makes sense. And that's exactly why I am such a proponent for a pre-conception detox in both partners. It's something that I used to talk about a lot when I worked with fertility in clinic, and I just wish it was spoken about more. But anyway.
I'm just going to throw this out there, and that's why I take Toxaprofen. I literally cannot. This is why the reason why I use binders, because generally it's one of the most scariest things, and people joke about it. There is a running joke in our company, right? And Dr. Marcus Stanton said it to us once. He said he's never ever seen someone not get pregnant when they were taking Toxaprevent, and he goes, "We're never going to do the study because it's going to take so much income and to actually physically do the study." But anecdotally, we've seen it, and
if anything, we've seen so many people who were told that they couldn't get pregnant get like immediately pregnant. But again, we can't say that. We can't say that. We can't
let's just that was a talk. Let's not.
But
let's
that
not go
would be
into
if there's anyone out there that wants to fund that research, that would be
yeah,
wonderful.
please do. We are 100% down for it.
I'll be a volunteer.
Because you talking about the plastics in the cups, for example, like these, for example, it's interesting. Like now, because we're doing a session soon on the decline in sperm in males and how much is going down now. Fertility in women, fertility is now becoming a massive problem.
Well, infertility in men seems to be really kind of progressing in the sense of it was always something that was looked at on the female side, but now we're seeing massive impact of fertility in issues in males, and there seems to be two very kind of specific theories, one being the environmental toxin exposure and then one being like the kind of micronutrient lack. So it's interesting. So it'd be really interesting to see. I'm just giving you loads of studies to do to look at like how the flow of antibiotics could be influencing that as well. Because understanding the mechanisms of how they work in the body, you can strongly theorize that there must be something happening there as well. But
100%.
we can't make any claims.
Yeah, 100%. I've got to put on this conversation.
You have a question.
Phages. This has become like the buzzword in the antibiotic community about using phages. But from my understanding, I started reading a little bit of the research and I want to read more into it, but I'm guessing you know a lot more about it. And from my understanding, it's very it's in its infancy stage because they actually don't know the impact of what it will do to the bacteria and the microbe by like, because it seeds into the bacteria, doesn't it? And then it basically spreads out and accumulates, and that then kills other bacteria. Am I correct?
Can you just can someone just explain that? Just because I'm conscious that a lot of people might not know what that is.
Can you explain phages? Because you'll do it a lot better than I will.
I don't know. To be honest, like phages, it's not really my expert, but I know a bit about
early research, right?
So phage is like kind of like a vaccine that giving, well, not a vaccine actually, like a direct input of giving them like a script to the bacteria. You need to follow this, then you can be free from the like a disease, something like that. I mean
cheat code for the bacteria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the phage can be made by the human, and basically there's like a cheating note for the bacteria. Yeah.
So it could then, in theory, tell the bacteria how to overcome whatever issue without the use of antibiotics.
That could be that could be the one, or like the code that decoding the infected the bacteria.
Yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. So like targeting and infiltrating the infected bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's interesting because the way they were looking at it was they were trying to like program the phages to attack certain bacteria and literally inject into that specific bacteria and then destroy it from within and then let it spread around. But I think from what I've read, don't quote me on this because I'm still reading and I'm still learning about this, but from my understanding, the problem is that when the bacteriophage has done its job, they don't know how to kind of get rid of it from the system properly, or they don't know how to get it to remove from the body or safely eliminate from the system. I think that's one part of it, but I'm still reading. So yeah, do you think that could be a potential solution for?
Yeah, actually one of my PhD colleague, she's end up her research now as well. She's studying about the phage as well, and then the experiment. And then the design, the idea, the concept is really, really difficult. It's another level. That's the proper science. It's not a science my study compared to that. Anyway, phage, when I discussed with her about her research, is really fascinating. It's like the solution that could be like we can do on the superbacterial rate as well. And then prevent all the like the random infectious disease related to the bacteria as well. But there are like more steps to do, move on, like like you said, how we're gonna eliminate, or like what is the like external or the further like unexpected impact with those phage. But I believe like the human is gonna do well on that, I guess, because I'm not a big fan of AI, but like I feel like this is the time when the human developed a new computer or the calculator. Yeah, if we use well, then we can save all the life, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully we won't be coming back here in 50 years and talking about all the phages we're finding in the food supply now.
No, I think I think we, like I said, this whole point of this today was not to fearmonger or scare people. It was just to raise awareness of what's kind of going on at the moment. But I do think that's the thing with the human population. We're very resilient, and we're very resilient at finding solutions and ways to look at things in a completely different manner. And I do think that there's more to it that meets the eye. So I've got to ask, what's next for Jegak? What's next after this? Is there a new PhD? Is there a new study that you're designing?
So currently, I'm designed, but I'm trying to move on, like making a progress on adapting this topic into the hospital environment. So I'm working with the clinicians in a Royal Free Hospital in London to track back the patient's dietary habit and then their food, because the patients are more vulnerable to the young adult or the other adults, so they will have a higher chance of getting like bad impact from the antibiotics. So, and on the other side, also working on making a machine learning that tool that we can predict on, if you eat this food, then you will have this amount of antibiotic, this set of antibiotic, like automatic calculation on based on your diet. Yeah,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so then that could be applied into the hospitalized patients, so that they don't need to have excessive antibiotics or unnecessary antibiotics for their treatment. Yeah, then we will save some antibiotics, or lower the chance of getting evolve onto the superbacteria. Yeah,
that'd be incredible. Like a real life kind of way that you could actually reduce unnecessary usage, because even that alone I'm sure would help so much.
That's definitely a case of watch this space with Jegak, I'm guessing, because that sounds incredible. Jegak, is there any last words that you want to give today that you think people will find beneficial?
To be honest, like, I want to say that we all living in a very comfortable and complex and frustrating world, I guess. Even like, I guess I'm younger than both of you guys, but like, if I remember back in 20 years ago, I was just a young kid with 8 years old. We didn't have access to like smartphone. Barely some people can get into the internet. People are really getting the information really easily and very conveniently, and that means exposed to a lot of information, like tsunami of information. And that makes the people's life more harder and harder. Like, I think I hope actually, yeah, that's the right word. I hope people to be more cool about like anything that happens. Really get easily stressed. So when you think about the food as well, don't think too much about it. Just eat healthy food. That will be all right, because the health, if you think better way, or the happiness, that can give you a better influence to your microbes, and then that's gonna, like, if you maintain your health, like microbes healthier and stronger, even if you're taking the antibiotics, you will be resistant to it. We can resistance to the antibiotic as well. So be happy, enjoy your life. Don't be stressful. Don't think too much. Everything will go past. We're not going to live like 200 or 300 years. We're only going to live like 50 years more from now on, right?
Yeah.
We just need to enjoy. Yeah, just need to enjoy. Yeah.
That's a really nice sentiment.
Yeah.
It's a really nice way to end it. Actually, I think that's nice for you to say, because I think a lot of people could be like, not scared, but I think
it's hard not to get carried away sometimes when you go down the kind of rabbit hole, particularly with health and things, because obviously it's something that's pertinent to everybody. But I totally agree with you. It's trying to maintain that balance between being informed and then just not kind of going down this spiral.
Yeah, Jegak, thank you, my friend.
No,
I literally,
that was a wonderful conversation.
That was you've opened my mind up a lot more than I didn't realize how much there was topic to cover, but this has just been fascinating, and I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. If Jegak, if you don't mind, we link where people can reach out to you to discuss more about your paper, if that's okay with you.
Of course, yeah.
So we'll link in Jegak's information and
the study we're referring to.
And the study we're referring to, and what we'll do is, if there's any questions, please just leave them in the comments, and then we'll send them over to Jegak, and maybe we'll do a follow-up where he gets to answer some questions, maybe like an Instagram live or something.
Absolutely. And as always, please let us know what you think about what we discussed here today. Was it something that you were aware of? Is it something you had a little bit of an awareness, or has it completely blown your mind? Please do share in the comments below, because thank you,
Jegak. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.